Hey everyone, what's happening? My name is Jamie Dean and welcome back to another episode of Collecting Retro, a series where I basically just take something off my shelf that I've either just picked up recently or had for a while and go through it and share some memories of a particular game that I remember very fondly. This is a brand new pickup that I'm sharing with you today that I actually just picked up last week. Something that I've been very keen to get a hold of, but it's taken a while for me to find one that I can even come remotely close to affording because this thing has skyrocketed in price, and that is Pokemon Pearl. Alright, here we go. Pokemon Pearl for the Nintendo DS. So this is not actually a game that I owned when this was released. I owned this one. I've come prepared, clearly. I owned this, Pokemon Platinum. Now this is a copy of the game that, as you can see, is still brand new and sealed that I was very lucky. One of those right place, right time moments on eBay where someone was selling something that, I don't know, maybe they wanted to get rid of it really quickly, or they didn't understand the value of what they had, but I got an absolutely incredible deal on this. And it's probably now one of the most valuable things in my collection. So that's what I played. And by all accounts, it's the better version of the game, right? But I still wanted to get either Diamond or Pearl on the shelf because that particular game, well, that generation, it's a weird one for me because it's not my favorite generation of Pokemon games. Although, you know, I love all the old school Pokemon games. Anything from sort of like pre-X and Y, I adore. I adore that whole, like, anything that went pre-full 3D era. I love the old retro pixel art Pokemon games, even when they went to sort of like the 2.5D in Pearl and Platinum and Heart Gold and Soul Silver and Black and White, etc, etc. I still love that particular look. It's when they went full 3D that I feel like the games just kind of lost some of their charm a little bit, or more than a little bit for me personally. So I'm trying to pick up some of those older gen games, you know, like I said, anything that's pre-X and Y, I'm trying to get my hands on for the shelf. I've got my Platinum that I used to own, so I'm very happy with that, but I also wanted to try and find Pearl because I can't actually open my copy of Platinum and have a look through it, have a look through the manual, have a flip through, so I wanted one that I was happy to, you know, that was already open, that I could happily and easily just open up and have a look in. So here it is with its lovely glittery cover. Did you play this one back in the day? Was this one that was very fondly remembered for you, or is this one that, like me, sort of passed you by either because you played its successor in Platinum or you just missed this generation entirely? Let me know. Drop down in the comments and let me know your memories around this particular gen of Pokemon games. But there we've got the back. Welcome to the next generation of Pokemon. So this was an important, even though it's not a generation that I hold, like I said, I've got a weird relationship with this one. It's not my favorite gen of Pokemon games, but it's a very important one for me, personally, because this is the generation where I came back to the Pokemon franchise after being away. I think the last Pokemon game I had played what is this, Gen 5? I'm gonna, like, balls that up, I'm sure. Whatever gen this is. I think the next Pokemon game before that I played was Pokemon Yellow. So we're talking, like, way before Diamond and Pearl and Platinum. And I just hadn't been around Pokemon since Yellow. Like, Red, Blue, and Yellow, I poured myself in. Like, I love Pokemon. If you've seen my setup behind me on the full cam shots, you'll see all the Pokemon paraphernalia I've got sitting on the shelf. I just adore Pokemon, like old retro Pokemon. I grew up just absolutely loving that franchise and loving everything about it. And so I poured myself into Red, Blue, Yellow, those first gen games. I don't know why. I don't know why. I think it's probably I didn't have access. Like, I never had a Game Boy Color. I never owned a Game Boy Color. I owned a Game Boy Advance, but for whatever reason, never picked up Ruby and Sapphire. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it was. I just got pulled away for whatever reason. I just, whether by circumstance or choice, I don't quite remember. But I moved away from Pokemon for quite a while after those first generation games. And I just got this really, as I tend to, I got this urge to come back to Pokemon and play Pokemon again. And that's sort of how I go with these games. I sort of like go really in hard with them, and then I drift away for a while, and then I come back and go really hard again and drift away. And anyway, one of the time when I got the urge to play Pokemon again, I just basically went down to my local EB Games, and I just picked up whatever game was current that was on the shelf, and that happened to be Platinum. At that particular point in time. So that's the game that I played, and it brought me back into this world of Pokemon that I loved so much, and I loved it. I thought it was fantastic being back in that world again. It was all very familiar to me, but also, there had been changes that I didn't necessarily... There was some changes that I adored, and there were changes that I loved, particularly around... didn't love, particularly around the story. Like, I'm a bit of a purist when it comes to Pokemon games. I love my 8 gym challenge and beat the Elite Four, and that's it. I like just seeping myself in the world, letting the world speak for itself. Whereas these games were this was sort of like the beginnings. No, Ruby and Sapphire would have been the beginnings of the big world-ending narratives that you're sort of playing through, but these ones really fucking ran with it, right? You're going through a huge end of the universe, multiverse, multi-dimensional, like all that kind of shit. I just don't care about it at all. I just want to travel the region and see the Pokemon in the region and talk to the people and see the towns. I want to indulge myself in the world. And I think Pearl and Diamond and Platinum, they say we're a little bit more heavy-handed on the end of the world thing for me. So while I did enjoy the game and love the game, I just didn't... It's not my favorite because I didn't like the overbearing sort of story. Alright, let's open this up and have a looky. So there we've got the cartridge itself. A style of cartridge that I think really began with the DS that Nintendo have pretty much just run with now, haven't they? For the 3DS, for the Switch... I'm keen to see where they go next gen in terms of physical media. Like, what are we going to get? Are we going to stick with cartridges? And if so, what are they going to look like? I don't love these tiny little SD card style cartridges. They're very easily lost. They're not the most sturdy thing in the world. So I kind of hope that they move away from this. I'd love to go back to like a bigger, chunkier plastic cartridge, personally. I guess it's not the end of the world if they don't, but it's not my favorite style of cartridge for sure. The manual, which I've got in backwards. There we go. So it's a bit tattered. It's a bit beat up. It's had some love for sure, which again, as I've said many times, I'm perfectly okay with. We've got a health and safety nonsense. We won't worry about that. This is really what we're here for. So I picked this one. This one was a Facebook Marketplace pickup, actually. And again, someone selling it for... Like, these have gotten quite expensive now to buy. You're talking sort of over $100 on the secondhand market a lot of the time to pick up a copy of Pearl. And for some reason, I don't understand why, Pearl tends to usually be more expensive than Diamond. If you're watching this and you know why that is... leave a comment and let me know, because that's really sort of like baffling to me as to, like, they're basically the same game. Why is Pearl so much more sought after than Diamond? Allegedly, at least in the times that I've looked, Pearl is always a good $20 or more expensive than Diamond is. But I managed to get this one, I guess because it was like a bit beat up. I mean, the case looks pretty good. The case is in good nick. The manual's a little bit battered. And maybe that's why it was a bit cheaper, but I certainly got it a lot cheaper than what this goes for on eBay, which is great. So I snatched it immediately when I saw it because I knew that was a good deal for this particular game. Oh, I love Pokemon manuals. I really do. Or at least I remember loving Pokemon manuals. We'll see if the nostalgia still holds, but I just... These of all the manuals that I would read, like, Pokemon manuals were my most read manuals. Like, if I wasn't playing the game, my nose was in one of these most of the time, right? I just love looking at them and looking through them. So we got our table of contents there. Your adventure begins. Let's have a quick little read of the first bit of this. In the world, in this world, live creatures. I haven't got my glasses on, as you can see. So this is gonna be a struggle. Maybe I should put. They're just here. Hang on. There we go. In this, oh god, I can see. That's amazing. Who knew? In this world live creatures called Pokemon. Humans and Pokemon have lived, worked, and played together in harmony for ages. Nevertheless, there are still numerous mysteries surrounding them. In order to find out more about these creatures, many scientists, such as Professor Rowan of Sandgem Town, have dedicated their lives to Pokemon research. One day, in search of rare Pokemon, you and your friend take a hike around the lake close to your town. While looking around the lakeside, you see two strangers talking about Pokemon. After they leave you, you realize they left a briefcase behind. You and your friend talk about what to do with the briefcase. It sounds like the start of a Coen Brothers movie, doesn't it? It's could have gone in a totally different direction. Oh, man. Object of the game. Set out for adventure in the Sinnoh region. See, this is what I fucking love about cracking open and digging into a new Pokemon game for the very first time, is just not really knowing anything. Like, just delving into a new place that you haven't seen before. Like, that to me is the magic of Pokemon, is that sense of discovery, of, you know, getting out and just seeing the world and seeing the creatures and the people and the towns and everything. Like, that's my favorite part of these games, is seeing all that for the first time. And I think that's why when you've got like these overbearing stories that they sort of try and shoehorn into these games to keep them fresh, I don't know, they sort of pull me out of that thing that I love about them so much. And that's still here, don't get me wrong. Like, I don't hate this gen. I really, really, really like this generation of Pokemon. I just don't, I'm not a fan of those, you know, the world's gonna end unless you do something about it, 10-year-old boy or girl, you know, like, I'm not a big fan of that. Just let me travel. Just let me travel and see, and let the world speak for itself, you know. Catch many different Pokemon, become the best Pokemon trainer ever. And there we go, we've got the basic controls, touchscreen controls, the Pokemon Watch, the Pocketch? I could never understand how to pronounce that. Handy though. I'll tell you what, moving Pokemon to the dual screens was fucking awesome. Like, the DS games to play physically were the best games by far. Like, having all the buttons like this down on the bottom screen, oh, I loved it. I loved it so much. You could just hit it with your thumb. The big, nice, chunky display. They were great. And the way the Pocketch, you know, used that bottom screen really well. And then when you got to Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl on the Switch, the remakes, you didn't have that dual screen functionality anymore by default. And so it just kind of, it didn't really work. Like, that was an example of a feature that was built for the hardware. And then when you try and move something that was built for specific hardware to different hardware, it doesn't quite work a lot of the time. Starting the game. Starting a new game, choose your gender, decide your name. Title menu screen. Checking the Pokédex. And all that entails. The bag. That was a bit cumbersome, the bag, wasn't it? Like, in terms of a menu system. Trying to remember. I don't think I loved... Like, I love the idea that you've got all different pockets for different things, right? It makes sense, but mechanically speaking, I think it was a bit cumbersome to navigate. Although I often find Pokemon's menus a bit cumbersome to navigate. Your name and trainer card, how to save. Oh, the save. Save game. Go and make yourself a fucking sandwich. Come back. Maybe it'll be done. Why did they take so long to save? What was it about these games that just the saving... Well, at least, you know, it felt like it just took for fucking ever. Options for battling. I said in my GoldenEye video that I never really fuck around with the options in games. I just go in and make do with what they have. Like, I think Pokemon, I changed the text speed to be faster, and that's about it. But I leave all the battle animations on. To me, that's just part of the charm. I know it slows it all down a lot, but I'm in no rush playing a Pokemon game. I'm there to take my time. The battle screen. It's a bit of a bland manual, I'm going to say. Like, there's not a lot of artwork, or at least not yet, anyway. More about the bag. Like, it's very much a technical manual, isn't it? And I found that for Pokemon Stadium as well, was a very, very technical manual. It wasn't a really, what's the word, I guess? Thematic manual? Like, GoldenEye's was a more thematic sort of manual, the way it was laid out like a dossier. Had nice still frame images of the film and things. This is all very, very technical. It's very, what's the word? It's not particularly charming, is it? It's a bit sterile. Tips for fighting. Use physical move and special moves effectively. Use a Pokemon's type to your advantage. Use your Pokemon's ability. And a bit about double battles. How to catch Pokemon. How to raise Pokemon. Buildings in towns. There we go. That was the exciting bit. Just exploring the towns. The towns were like characters in and of themselves, I found, in a Pokemon game. And as they should be, really. They were the best characters in the game, were the towns. Pokemon Center, healing. The Pokemart. Super contest. I never messed around with the contests. Like, again, they're just more... I like that they're there, like that you've got the option, but it's just more shit that's kind of like pulling you away from what I'm personally there for. So I never messed around with, like, every generation seems to have its side thing, you know, like Gold and Silver was all about like apricorns and crafting Pokemon. Like, I never really fucked around with it. There was the Pokethlon. Which gen was that in? I can't remember. Never fucked around with that either. Dance competition, visual competition, acting competition. Different items. Poffins, yeah, like, again, like making I don't think my Pokemon ever got fed a Poffin. Just, I'm not there for that. That's not what I'm there. Like, I like that it's there. Again, it's like that RPG stuff, you know, the side stuff that's there to indulge yourself in, but if it got in the way of moving through the world, then I tended not to pay much attention to it. That's just me. I don't know if I'm an outlier there, or if that was what a lot of people did. More about the Poketch. Poketch. It's a fucking shit word, isn't it? Poketch. Just call it the Pokewatch. Why couldn't it just be called Pokewatch? Why Poketch? Migrating Pokemon from the Game Boy Advance. Blah, blah, blah. Here we go. Some gym leaders and badges. So we've got Rourke, Gardenia, Maylene. Fucking Maylene. Wake. Woo, over here. Fantina. Byron. It was interesting having Rourke and Byron, because they were like father and son, right? That was a weird... Focus. Hello? Here we go. That was a weird sort of thing. Candace and Volkner. Volkner was a pretty tricky battle. All about multiplayer. Something I never did a lot of, if I'm honest, with Pokemon games. Never played a lot of multiplayer. I guess because I didn't have the hardware a lot of the time. I played when I played Yellow. I did play a lot of multiplayer via the what's it called? You know, the pack that comes with Pokemon Stadium, where you could load your characters into Pokemon Stadium, load your Pokemon in, and you could battle each other in Pokemon Stadium. I did quite a bit of that. But this, you know, the main thing, like the trading and battling with friends, you know, the big push that is Pokemon, I just never really engaged with it all that much. More battles, more battles, more battles. And that's it. Wi-Fi connection. Oh no, here we go. Oh yep, setting up your Wi-Fi, blah blah blah. More about Wi-Fi. And there we go, terms and agreement. Yeah, bit of a shit manual, I'm gonna be honest. Not terribly interesting. Not like just laid out very much like a technical document. Which I guess we start to see a little bit more of as Pokemon moves on and becomes more involved. You know, I know it's a simple game, but they're trying to cram more stuff into it that they need to explain. So not my favorite game manual ever, I'll be honest, and neither was Pokemon Stadium's. It'll be interesting to go through some of the other manuals that I've got sitting there for other Pokemon games and try and find the point in which they moved towards a more technical manual style, because I don't remember the original manuals being like that. Correct me if I'm wrong, if you own them. I don't, unfortunately. I'd love to get my hands on them. But even the fact that they were called like trainer guides or something, weren't they? They weren't even referred to as, what was this called? Yeah, in the instruction booklet, whereas the original one was called like a trainer guide. It was kind of laid out like a field guide almost. And just had a bit more personality to it. That's the word I keep trying to think of. There's not a lot of personality in that manual, is there? It's just kind of like, here's the instructions of the game and how to interact with it in very, you know, like lots and lots of text, you know? But I still read them. Back in the day. I still would have poured through that and read them. I don't know if Platinum's was any different to that. Probably not, I'm going to guess. That would have been a bit of a standard, but anyway. There it is, Pokemon Pearl, one of my latest additions to my collection. One I'm very, very happy to have. Like I said, it's a even though it's not my most loved generation of Pokemon, it is a special generation of Pokemon for me in the way that it got me back into this franchise that I love and adore so much. And yeah, if I hadn't have gone into the EB Games and grabbed that copy of Platinum and played it and loved it and got pulled back in, I don't know where my relationship with Pokemon would be now, to be perfectly honest, you know? So I'm glad that I had that experience, and for that reason, I do have a special place for this particular gen on the DS. I would have picked Turtwig for sure. In fact, I know for sure I did pick Turtwig because I remember my Torterra. Yeah, any grass starters. I'm a grass starter boy. I think the only grass starter that I didn't pick was in Gold and Silver, where I went with Totodile. But other than that, I pretty much exclusively go with grass starters. I love my grass Pokemon. But that is neither here or nor there. So let us know if you played this particular gen of Pokemon, if you loved it, didn't love it, what you thought about it, which one you played. If you know why Pearl is so much more sought after than Diamond, please tell me. I don't know, maybe it's got something to do with the Legendary that you have access to. Maybe it's the preferred Legendary, I don't know. Like I said, I didn't play either of these. I played Platinum. But if you played Diamond and Pearl and you remember them fondly or not, I'd certainly love to hear about it if you want to drop down and leave a comment. Other than that, thank you so much for hanging out. I very much appreciate it. I hope that was interesting or a bit nostalgic for you. If you hadn't cracked open one of these cases and had a look through for a while, I certainly haven't. So it was, even though a bit of a boring manual flip through, it was still really cool to get reacquainted with it. But that is going to do it for me for this video, my friends. Thank you so much for hanging out. My name has been Jamie Dean, and as always, you should probably keep on side-scrolling. Take care. We'll see you next time.